Town of Front Royal, Mr. Tederick. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Chairman, forgive me, and members of the board, interim county administrator, Mr. Daly, good morning. First of all, I'd like to say this, the audio sounds great in this room, and the video quality is fantastic. So as you guys know, we have the new Swagit system in place, and I think we all we all should give Todd Jones and Dwayne a pat on the back for a job well done in a timely manner. I think the system is working very well. As far as just some comments that I have, the CARES Act, the first round Front Royal applications, they were a tremendous success. We've already distributed over 71 businesses over close to $700,000. We took a 1-week pause to evaluate and reevaluate. We did some additional advertising, and that seems to have been very successful as well. Within the first couple of days, we had over 15 grant applications, another $145,000. As of Friday, we had 14 additional more for another 127. So we're going to be close to that $970,000 and giving checks out to 100 different businesses. And according to the Chamber of Commerce, a big thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and the CARES Act committee that's been established, the volunteers. It's been very well received from businesses. We had several businesses who said we were probably going to be shutting down our businesses at the end of the month, but this is going to be able to keep us going for several months. So it's been a real success. And as you know, the county is fronting that, or the town is fronting that money. We haven't received funds yet from the county as we're trying to work through an agreement, which leads me to item 4F. I don't know exactly how you do your consent agendas. I don't know if you plan to adopt all items or you're planning to pull an item, but Mr. Daly and I had conversations on Thursday regarding item 4F, and what appears in the packet appears to be pretty much the same agreement that the county had drafted in the first time. Was that changed, or is that going to be pulled off for discussion, or?
I'm Jason Ham. It's
Yes,
nice
sir.
to make your acquaintance,
Hi, how are you,
Mr.
sir?
Tederick. I originally sent a draft of the agreement to Mr. Napier on June 24th. That wasn't the one that you currently have. He looked at it. I called him on the phone. We were actually on the phone when I sent it to him, and he said it looked okay to him, but he needed to send it to others in town. I then on August the 10th sent him really the final version, and that first one that I sent in June was the Kilmorock document that I understand that you gave to Mr. Daly a few days ago.
Okay.
And so and I called on the 17th of August, a week after I'd sent it, because of course we know that the town is distributing money,
Right.
and that town residents are county residents, and we want you to have the money, but we also need to have the agreement done. So I called him on the 17th of August, Mr. Napier, and he promised that he would send me what were the changes. I deliberately sent the document in Word. Common thing for lawyers
Sure.
to do is,
Sure.
you put in the things that you want changed, so it's
Sure.
shown in red line. So I got an email from Mr. Napier that evening after we had talked that said, this is the final version. The finance director and I were batting around. It's not redlined. I can try to recreate the changes for you, or you can probably do it as well. So I emailed him back a few hours later. If the county accepts these changes, is this agreement acceptable to the town? And can it be used for the second round of CARES Act funds as well? If so, the county could probably approve it later today. This was the 18th of August. And again, there's urgency here.
Sure.
Please let me know this morning if possible. And the response was, I'm circulating this to the town manager and finance director for their input, as I am not the final authority. My initial guess is this will be a reasonable template, but don't hold the town to that. So we got some changes from the town on the 18th of August, but we didn't get, hey, if you change this, we'll sign it, which is what we need. The changes were put in several places. There were really 3 changes that the town had requested. In several places, it was written in, except as otherwise provided herein, as an exception to the town taking the risk that the CARES Act funds are improperly expended. And that's not acceptable to the county. As you probably know, the document that the county had to sign, provided from the Commonwealth of Virginia in order to get this money in the first place, said share it with the town, but if anybody spends it incorrectly, it's not the town's problem, it's the county's problem. And so all over the Commonwealth, people are signing similar agreements. And again, your town attorney has on 2 occasions told me it looks okay to him, but there's other people he has to report to. So the except as otherwise provided herein language wasn't okay, and I told Mr. Napier that. The town wanted there was a portion of the agreement that the town wanted to add, which I did accept, which was that the town offers to pay, if the event that a federal or state authority says, hey, what the town did is incorrect, then, the town would, and this is what the town wanted, and I have put this in this agreement, the town will go ahead and pay for the county's legal expenses of fighting that. That's reasonable. That's fine. I mean, if it's the town's ultimately on the hook, but the county can help out and the county will be made whole, fine. I did that. There was a signature page for the attorney and the clerk to sign, which is not legally necessary, but I agreed to that and I changed that. There were a bunch of stylistic changes. Made the document very confusing to read because it wasn't redlined, and basically it was consolidation of a whole bunch of different paragraphs. I didn't accept those because there's lots of county staff members who had seen that document. It made it very confusing and hard to read. So the document with those changes is what's now presented to the county for approval. So after I got the email back from Mr. Napier on the 18th of August, where he basically said it's a reasonable template, but don't hold the town to that.
Was that the same, that was the same one where he said he'd share it to other staff to review?
Yes.
Okay.
He made it clear he's not the final authority, but again, we've had a lot of time pass at this point, and again, there's urgency here. As
Yes,
you
sir.
just reported, you've spent $907,000.
Yes, sir.
So on the 19th, the next morning, I emailed Mr. Napier, do you have an update on this? I didn't get a response. On the 24th, I mailed again, can you please give me a call about this? The county would like to complete this agreement. That was on Monday the 24th. I didn't get a response to that. So on the
And then I met with Mr. Daly on Thursday.
Okay, so on the 25th, the Tuesday of last week, a week ago from today, I sent this email. Doug, I have accepted some of the town's requested substantive changes and made this agreement apply to all CARES Act funds provided to the town. The requested stylistic changes, which largely consist of consolidating paragraphs, have not been accepted, as it makes this document hard to compare against the prior draft. There are reasons why the other changes are not acceptable to the county. For example, in all circumstances, it is the town's responsibility to comply with the CARES Act, and the agreement is not subject to being litigated by a third party, so the forum selection clause is valid as is. There's a forum selection clause that says if there's an argument between the county and the town, then it's to be tried in the courts of Warren County, which is entirely reasonable. And someone had put in there, not Mr. Napier, that if someone removes it to a federal court, some third party, well, it's not a contract between third parties, it's a contract between the town and the county. So I finished with saying this version is going to the Warren County Board of Supervisors agenda package later this week for the 9/1 meeting, today's meeting. If there are any changes, we will need to have them ironed out by the end of the day tomorrow. As you know, the CARES Act funds must be spent by the town by 12/1/20, and in order to provide sufficient time to the town, we must finalize this agreement. So when I sent this on the 25th of August, I had for a full week the town's requested changes, but with the language, don't hold the town to that. So I then emailed Mr. Napier the next day, on the Wednesday, when I didn't hear from him. Per our conversation of yesterday, if there's anything else to do, let's work on it today. I didn't hear back from him on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the board wants to kick it down the road for 2 more weeks, I'm not sure that's a good idea. And I would recommend that if there are specific changes, maybe the board wants to take a 5-minute break and we could try to redline something right now. But if we can't do that, I would recommend that the county adopt this as is today. And it doesn't mean that it couldn't come back and be modified later. But I'm very concerned, because I didn't know until this very minute, hearing from you, Mr. Tederick, or I guess I heard from
Oh, yeah, that's unfortunate, because I had that
from
meeting
Doug.
Thursday.
I did hear from Ed that, hey, you know, we don't really like that, we want this agreement. Well,
Right.
what you handed him was the original one that I had sent to you, so that wasn't really helpful.
Right.
So, you know, and basically.
So you're satisfied with the original Comarch agreement?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
That is the basic nuts and bolts of it, but
Okay,
it's
right.
between the town of Kilmarnock and someone else, so that
Right.
obviously needs to be changed.
Right.
Also, we want to make sure that the agreement is enforceable. And so there are a lot of changes that have been made to
Yeah.
it. But the basic nuts of it is that, which I think is at least in principle agreed to between the attorneys, is that if the town makes a mistake with respect to the CARES Act funding, it's the town's problem, not the county's.
Right.
It really is not
Right.
much more complicated than that.
Right.
There is other things put in there to benefit the county, and I'll tell you, if the changes that were actually presented to the county are the ones that are acceptable to the town, you know, we can possibly work back to that if that's something you need to
Right.
do, and if we need to take a little break to do that.
Right.
My concern is if this board doesn't approve something today, isn't this going to put you in a bind because you need the money?
No, it's not going to put us in a bind. So, Mr. Chairman, let me thank you for that in-depth legal analysis. Regrettably, I'm not an attorney. Attorneys tend to deal in the law, and I tend to deal in reality. So the situation I found myself in, when I saw the document as it was presented, I circulated it to several people. The problem we have, in the document as it's currently written, attorneys don't deal in the procedure, in the process, they deal in the law. So the attorneys probably came to a legal general understanding, not realizing the ramifications. There's a bureaucratic element that's established in this document that is problematic to the town. It's basically forcing us to expend all the funds end of September in order to meet the deadlines that are set up within the agreement to be approved by the county so that we can receive the funds and have them received by December 30th. The CARES Act wasn't established to jam in the expenditures in such a short time period. Personally speaking, I think it'd be very wise for the town and the county to exercise maximum flexibility so that we have until November and December to find out what impact coronavirus and the pandemic's having on our community so that we can adjust as necessary. It's my understanding the Comarch document that Mr. Ham referenced has been vetted with hundreds of attorneys across the Commonwealth. I believe this was the first contract that was actually ratified between a county and a town. And it's a simple two-page document, whereas this is a 6-page document. So I don't know that we need. The town is perfectly willing to assume all liability. The town is perfectly willing to certify, according to the CARES Act, that we will spend the money according to the CARES Act and the procedures. And that's really in premise, that's really all that's necessary. So I can tell you, as it's currently written, it's very problematic. I don't know that the town's going to be able to sign it as it's currently written. I understand Mr. Ham having conversations with our town attorney. I can't speak for my town attorney. I can only speak as far as the reality of administering the funds. We know how to do it. We've been doing it. We anticipate doing it again, but I'm not going to spend the next round of funds until we get a contract, which is, I think, what everyone's intention is. So with that, you guys handle it as you wish. I would recommend pulling that item off. Let's have one more round of discussion. 2 weeks is not going to hurt us in the least bit. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt us. So we're perfectly fine. If it takes 2 weeks to get it right, I'd rather get it right and have maximum flexibility, simplicity. The town's willing to certify, and we're willing to assume all liability for the funds the county gives us. And I can state that publicly, as well as we can do it in written form.
So, sir, I didn't really get any input at all from your town attorney on this.
Yeah, I regret that.
And I
So
absolutely
appreciate
did have a lot of input with Rick Farrell, who works for the county and who is very much involved in the on-the-ground issues of how to spend the money. The agreement is not overly complicated. It is actually has 1 page of whereases and 3 pages instead of 2 of language. But, you know, the first section says, we'll give you $2.5 million. The second section says you can only spend it on COVID. The third says you will keep and provide to the county all documents necessary. The fourth section says that the expenditure by the town, of the town distribution by the town is at its sole risk. The fifth says the town has got to expend the money by December 1st. The sixth says the town will fully comply with all requirements of the CARES Act. And the seventh says if the town doesn't, the county is reimbursed within 10 days. The eighth says that they're in security for repayment, that the town agrees that various contracts that it have with the county would be subject to the repayment obligation.
Yeah, no issue with any of that so
And-
far.
Okay, so
No
the
issue.
ninth says that if any federal or state authority asserts that the county owes money as a result of the actions of the town waives its right to assert the defense of statute of limitations.
Right.
Now, you might consider that overly complicated.
No,
I don't, because-
here's the onerous part of it. The town using such funds for expenses that are reimbursable under Act upon the town providing documentation to the county sufficient to prove that the expenses are reimbursable. So to me, that's an onerous, so our town staff has to gather all this documentation. We just had 100 applicants. We have to compile all this documentation. We also have to get canceled checks. We have to submit it to the county. The county's going to take all this time to review, and then there's subjectivity. They can select, pick, and choose, and we've already expensed the funds. So there's, again, Mr. Chairman, it wasn't my intention to debate this tonight. It was my intention to ask a question whether this item was going to be approved. I'm asking you to pull it so we can continue dialogue and discussion. I have other items I need to discuss as well. I think that paragraph is problematic. I shared it with Mr. Daly on Thursday, and regrettably, it wasn't well received by the attorney. So that's our concern with that paragraph.
And I might be happy to do that, and I can be done in the next few seconds. I really did want to respond to your assertion that there were portions of the agreement that were somehow complicated or not okay, and
Yeah, that's the one particular section that is.
Okay, and that's what I'm trying to flush out, because I haven't, through numerous phone calls and emails, been
Yeah,
able to flush
again,
out
I
the
appreciate
issue.
you wanting to flush that out.
So I guess my question is, how is the town distributing money if it doesn't have documentation from folks showing that it's CARES Act eligible?
Well, see, if we certify that we're going to spend the funds according to the CARES Act, and we know how to follow the CARES Act, and we're liable in the event we misspend any funds, the county has no issues with that. There's no issues. If we certify, and currently we have documentation on those 100 applicants,
there an
as you
issue with
will, through
is
our
there-
portal that we're helping you build.
Okay, and those would be subject to FOIA anyway. Is there an issue with the town providing those documents?
Now, of course,
to the
there's no issues with the town providing, no, and
So
most of that is not
I
subject to
don't quite
FOIA.
understand
Most of
what
that
the
is not
problems
subject to
are,
FOIA.
but, you know, if you're telling me that the town can definitely kick this down the road till the 15th of September,
Sure.
I don't know if that's correct or not, but
Okay.
if the board wants to do that, they certainly may.
Mr. Chairman, moving on to Public Works. The construction of 17th Street slip lane besides sheets is underway. Curb and gutter and sidewalks are in, and paving is scheduled for September 16th, weather dependent. The town is working on rehabilitation of East Stonewall Drive Bridge. Rehabilitation should be completed and the bridge reopened between September 21st and 25th. Once again, weather dependent. The contractor recently finished repaving of 522 from a water break that occurred near the regional jail. The rehabilitation of the Fairground Road water tank was completed several weeks ago. The contractor is now working on rehabilitation of the Guard Hill water tank. Contractors for the town continue to work toward reducing the inflow and infiltration of storm water, the town sanitary sewer district. I would let you know, as well as all county residents, that there's going to be a significant amount of improvements on our storm sewer system, as well as there's going to be a lot of work, a lot of contractors. Currently, we have 4 contractors all over town. There's going to be more in the coming year. It's going to get a little worse as far as the road conditions before it gets a lot better. We have a significant paving plan planned as well. Citizens may see contractor smoke testing areas and receive door hangers notifying them of testing. This process will allow the contractor to locate areas in which storm water may be entering the town's sanitary sewer district. And I'm here to attest that the smoke test works well. We had our town hall building smoked out Friday on the 2nd floor from a dry water trap. So the custodian was in there at 7 o'clock in the morning and got smoked out of the building temporarily. But it works well. Crews continue to camera lines to locate problematic areas of the sanitary sewer system. The CIPP lining, open cut, and manhole replacement efforts continue as well. Electric department continues with the Chantel fiber lines. That's going very well, a little bit ahead of schedule. The finance, as it relates to finance, the unaudited town revenues for FY20, which we really, like you, we're really concerned about how we're going to end the fiscal year. It looks very promising. We're actually very favorable. Meals tax, we collected 99% of what we budgeted, even with the pandemic. Lodging tax, we collected 84%. Sales tax, we were 7% above. Pilot that the town collects, we were 8% above. The electric and refuge, we're on target, and water and sewer is a little bit below budgeted amounts. The town is currently working on preparing its FY CAFR and is on track to have it completed by November as required by the Auditor of Public Accounts. And I'm pleased to announce that for the 32nd year, the town finance department received the GFOA award. And as a general matter, the town is going to continue to close Main Street on weekends, Friday 4:30 p.m. to Monday 7 a.m. We are adjusting the street closure. The street closure is going to be closed from Chester and Main, and we're going to move the closure from Main and Royal to Main and Crescent. So we're going to try to open up those side streets and allow a little bit more flexibility and transportation for vehicular traffic. That concludes my report. Any questions, Mr. Chairman?
I don't have anybody from the board.
I had
Yes,
one,
sir, Mr.
just to clarify. You're saying that if we push the agreement with the town to the 15th, that does not hurt you all?
Well, no, provided that we're able to have some flexibility in the timing of our spending so that we don't have months of determination whether an expenditure was approved or not. So no, we'd have no problem. I mean, we can turn this around. I can have the money spent in 2 weeks like we've done before.
And then, Mr. Ham, is there any negative effect on the county if we push this back 2 weeks?
Well,
Or Mr. Daly, whoever?
I guess, town residents are county residents, and that's my concern. And I, haven't been able to sort of analyze with the calendar when the next town meeting might be. I'm also concerned that we've talked for some time without really getting back from I heard tonight, and I very much appreciate, or this morning, and I very much appreciate what the real concern is. Didn't know that till now. And
I'm sorry that wasn't related to you Thursday or
Sure.
Friday.
Well, my concern is that we go another 2 weeks, and then we have an 11th hour discussion, and then we really are in absolute trouble.
Yeah, that would be
So,
a concern.
When can you all have actual changes to this document to us?
If we can go back to the Clamaric document, I think that's a satisfactory document.
Well, that's not satisfactory to the county.
So there's a rub. So I guess you have to tell us why that's not satisfactory. And again, if we need to have an off-the-line conversation and sit down and understand your greater concerns, that document was vetted through VML. The document is used as the template in our state rather, for contracts between town and counties. It's the template. And
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I've been told that by the
person who wrote it,
by the
James Cornwell, and sure, it's a template, but it needs to be tailored. And I read to you 2/3 of this document, and the only thing you disagreed with was
right.
one
The
small
1/3.
portion.
The 1/3 is problematic. Right.
So for example, perhaps it would be helpful, and you guys have this in Word, for you to X that part out and send it to me. I don't want to go back to the first drafting of this that wasn't ever my first draft.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 weeks. If you pull it off the agenda, we have 2 weeks to work it out.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
I don't have anybody else. Thank
Do
you,
you
sir.
know,
Thank you.
Mr. Tederick, when you would be able to have any comments or changes to this document beyond what you've told me
Yeah, so we can
today?
move very quickly. Very quickly. Yeah, we have
By
a
the
board
end
meeting
of
Monday
the
night.
next few
We have a board
business
meeting Monday
days,
night.
You think that might be able to happen?
I believe that's possible.
By Monday night?
Are you going to have a special meeting? Or
Well,
we do have 2 weeks?
If we need to, I guess maybe we will. But, again, my concern is we've spent a lot of time really not getting anywhere just yet.
Right.
And if it's possible to get something back from the town within the next 2 or 3 business days, it would be greatly
Yeah, I think,
appreciated.
yeah, you'll find a town to move very quickly on this.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ham.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.